Hello and welcome back to my channel. So today what I thought I would do is a write my birth plan with me video, because when I was looking up birth plan videos I couldn't really find anything that wasn't just like made by Mumsnet or like hospitals. I wanted one that was written in the UK by an actual person. So I thought what I'd do is I'd just share with you that kind of process. Obviously Fraser and I we've looked at two birth plan templates. We've used them both, kind of put them together to make our own decisions. Obviously we've made every decision together and we've written it all in a notebook. And what I'm going to be doing now is kind of going through those decisions, the reasons that I made those decisions, or we made those decisions, kind of what each thing means, what your options are, and kind of things like that, because there's a lot of stuff that we had to research and had to look up and kind of had to justify, and it was kind of like the blind leading the blind at that point. So I just thought this would be a really nice idea to kind of obviously share my thoughts with you, and then obviously if you're creating your own birth plan, then this hopefully might help you in some way. Obviously I think people are now starting to call birth plans birth preferences, just because obviously you can't really have a plan. You know, all of these decisions that I've made are completely reliant on everything kind of going smoothly, and of course that might not happen. So having kind of birth preferences rather than a birth plan makes it a little bit less kind of in stone. Obviously I'm completely flexible, whatever needs to happen to get baby out safely. So yeah, without further ado I will get started. The two birth plans that we've kind of worked from are, one of them is from London Hypnobirthing that you get when you sign up. It's like a template you get when you sign up, and the other one we are using is from our antenatal course, which is called Birthing and Beyond. It's a local course. So those are the two we've kind of looked at together, and then we've kind of made our own ideas from that. Okay, so what I'm going to be going through is I'm going to be going through the questions that are asked on our Birthing and Beyond birth wishes, that's what it's called on here, birth wishes, and kind of explaining our decision for each one. So the first one just says a brief introduction about yourself and your birth partner. Now at this point in time you can still only have one birth partner, I believe, because of the pandemic. I'm not sure if they're changing that to two or whether that's just in certain areas. Obviously if that's maybe someone would want a partner and a doula. My birth partner is obviously Fraser, but for early labour I will have my mum and my stepmum around as well for support. Obviously once active labour, if we go into a hospital, then it will be me and Fraser that would go in together. The other thing I've written in this section is, it says obviously like a brief introduction. I've just written that we will be using hypnobirthing techniques. Again, something that I really recommend. Even if it's just for, we actually really appreciated, like I said, we did London Hypnobirthing and it was all online. It was like podcasts that you listen to in your own time, and even just having an idea, a lot of them went into like the biology of birth and labour, and that was actually really good, because before I got pregnant I didn't know anything about like the hormones, I didn't know about kind of the muscles, I didn't know anything about how it worked. So even if it's just kind of for that aspect, I would definitely recommend it. And then of course on top of that there's birth stories, and then obviously things like the breathing techniques and things like that, that are also really good. So definitely, if that's kind of the way that you're thinking, then hypnobirthing is definitely a really great route. And like I said, I just put that right at the top of our birth preferences. We will be using hypnobirthing techniques, just so that the midwives are aware, obviously, that it will be aromatherapy, breathing, music, things like that. Okay, so the second question on this birth wishes sheet is, where would you like to give birth? And in an ideal world, at this point in time, my birth preference is at home. And my decision for that is, obviously it's my first baby, and I know that I think it's like a marginal risk with first baby, that things can go a little bit wrong and you might need to be transferred from home. Now, I made this decision, or we made this decision. Actually, no, Fraser was really open, and he kind of let me make this decision, because obviously it's me, it's my body, it's my birth. And our house is lovely, and it's my nest, it's our nest, and I already like things like smells, I already like lights, I've already made it excuse me, as cozy as I want it, and I just feel really comfortable here. And I was reading a birth story, I've read a couple of birth stories actually about home birth and with first babies, and I think just the idea of kind of, you're in that zone, especially with hypnobirthing, you kind of get yourself into that zone, you know, you're feeling empowered, you're having your surges, and then I feel like to interrupt that process, to get in a car, go to the hospital, walk through a blinding, you know, entrance, having to put a mask on, walking down all the corridors to get to the maternity ward, introducing yourself to all the people that are there, you know, speaking to receptionists, having your temperature checked, yada 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 yada, all those things that you would have to do to then just get back into that zone when you're there. I just feel like for me that would interrupt that process, that birthing process. Obviously at home I'm aware that there are some things that we don't have. Obviously we don't have a pool. I'm not going to hire a pool for home. Some people do hire a pool for home. I'm not going to do that. Our bathroom is big enough that we can use the bath as like a kind of another safe space. If I want water. I have a TENS machine. Midwives can bring gas and air. I'm not sure, but I think midwives can also bring pethidine. I would have to check that with my midwife. So there are pain relief options at home. The pain relief options that they could offer at home are basically the same as what they could offer in the hospital anyway. So for me, at this point in time, I do think that home birth makes me feel the most kind of relaxed, the most kind of open. Yeah, I think at this point in time, like I said, I've kind of changed my mind back and forth, but I think at this point in time, that is my preferred decision. I spoke before in one of my previous videos about kind of the different options that are open for me. So there's obviously home birth, the midwife unit at Eastbourne, and then the hospital at Conquest in Hastings. When I refer to pain relief, obviously I'm talking about the midwifery unit. Obviously Conquest, the hospital, will have epidurals, it'll have everything. My second preference, if I got to the point where I was still at home and I was thinking a bit like, actually I don't want to be here, I want to be somewhere else, I would go to the maternity unit, and they have a pool, like a proper pool. So if that was, you know, if I was kind of getting to that point where I was a bit like, oh no, I just need a change of scene, like I want to go in the pool, then I would go to Eastbourne midwifery unit. I asked my midwife, I said, when do I have to decide by? And she said, when you're in labour. So because obviously my pregnancy has been low risk, I can basically leave it till the last minute. I can kind of ring them and say, you come here or I'll come there, kind of thing. So it really is open, which is obviously amazing. Like, to have that option is amazing. Pain relief preferences. Again, this is kind of ideal scenario. I don't know what the pain is like. I've never given birth before, obviously. I would like to think I have a decent pain tolerance, and I'm not going to be one of those people that's like, I don't want an epidural, like da 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 da, because I feel like if you kind of have that barrier, then you can kind of feel like you didn't have that idealistic birth that you had in your head, or it feels like giving up if you have one, that kind of thing. So I'm not like completely in that mindset, but at the same time I am like, I'm going to take it one step at a time. Like, I'm going to start with water, I'm going to start with TENS machine. So yeah, so let me go through what I've put on my birth preferences. So water, as in get in the bath or get in the pool. Water is really good for helping you feel weightless. It's really good for soothing, obviously, like your vagina and things. And I know that when baby crowns, it can be really, really sore. That can be I think people say that can be the most painful bit, because it's kind of like stretching everything. And apparently water is really good at kind of soothing that, and I think you are less likely to tear if baby crowns in water. Don't quote me on that, you might have to do some research. But yeah, definitely water, really calming. I love water, I've been having baths the whole pregnancy, been swimming when I can in the sea when it was warm. So yeah, definitely water. Breathing, obviously. My hypnobirthing breathing techniques that we've been practicing, you know, kind of breathing through your surges or your contractions. Use of equipment, and by that I mean like a birthing ball, use of different positions, things like that. TENS machine, and I've showed it before in other videos, but I just picked this one up from Boots. This is one that I've bought, like I haven't hired it or anything. So I'm going to give that a go as well if I need it. And gas and air, like I said, midwives can bring that to your home when they come, so gas and air is also an option. I would prefer not to have anything that crosses the placenta. So for example, pethidine can make baby a little bit sleepy. It makes you feel a little bit sleepy, and it also makes baby feel a little bit sleepy, and it can affect their feeding in the first few hours. So if you have an epidural, you're more likely to have an assisted delivery, as in forceps or ventouse, just because you can lose that sense of kind of pushing and that sense of guiding baby out yourself. So that is kind of a risk of that, and again, you know, I'm gonna try and avoid that. You know, don't take this, you know, it's not a plan, it's my preferences. I fully understand if I'm in a lot of pain and I need an epidural, it'll happen. You know, I'm not kind of against any of these things, but it's the research that I've done and the decisions that I've made, if that makes sense. Movement, moving position, counter pressure, massage, all those kind of things I will be utilising as well. So yes, that is pain relief preferences. Got my raspberry leaf tea, as always. Okay, so next thing on the list is anxieties/fears, how staff could support you through these. My fears are bright lights. I think that having your baby in a bright room, basically picture any film that you've watched where someone's given birth, and that is my fears and anxieties. And that's the thing, you know, there was a whole bit in my hypnobirthing course. Media is quite prevalent in kind of how people portray birth and why people are so scared of birth, even though it's such a natural process. The bright lights, the screaming, the being stuck on your back on a bed, you know, being strapped in with your legs in the air. Basically that is all the things that I don't want. So I don't want to have to be stuck in one position. I don't want to be on my back on a bed. I don't want to have bright lights. I want it to be nice and dim and calm, and, you know, music and smells. I don't want kind of any of that. The other thing I put is feeling observed. And again, that's about that kind of building up that oxytocin. If you feel like there's strangers with their eyes on you, you know, from every angle, you feel a little bit observed. And that's again something that I want to avoid. The other thing is kind of people making decisions and kind of talking, you know, like medical professionals kind of talking behind your back and stuff. I want to be a part of kind of every decision. Or if I can't advocate, then I want Fraser, who is obviously aware of my wishes, to be able to advocate for me. So yeah, those are kind of my anxieties and fears. I think in this day and age, you know, it's not something that's going to happen. I'm not going to be stuck in a bright white room on my back with my legs in the air, you know, it's not going to happen. When I looked around Eastbourne maternity unit, the rooms are all lovely and dim and fairy lights and things like that. So I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, like I said, those are my anxieties and fears. Okay, so the next question is, what positions would you like to try? And I've kind of already gone through that, you know, the use of equipment, things like the birthing ball, squatting, definitely, keeping active, walking around, anything that has gravity on your side, because obviously if you're stuck on your back and baby's trying to come out that way, that's going to be less effective than if baby's coming down, because obviously you have gravity. So just kind of keeping active and things like that. The next option was, what monitoring would you prefer? So basically, from what we could gather, there's two different types of monitoring. So there's continual monitoring, or there's kind of Doppler stethoscope monitoring. Continual monitoring, if you watched my last video, no, not my last video, the one before that, but when I talked about the heartbeat scare. Continual monitoring is basically that, where you're strapped in on the bed, you've got two straps, one on the top, one on the bottom, and it's continuously monitoring baby's heartbeat to check that everything's going all right. The other option is Doppler or stethoscopes, which is where they just kind of put it on your tummy occasionally and check that everything's going to plan. Now, I basically said nothing invasive, and I don't want anything that limits movements where possible. So, for example, being strapped in, it doesn't mean you have to stay on your back, it doesn't mean you have to lie down, but it really, really limits the range of where you can move to. Whereas, obviously, if they're just sticking a Doppler on your tummy, it's basically just a stick and they put it on your tummy. If they just do that every now and then, you can be anywhere in the room and it doesn't matter. So unless necessary, I will be opting for I will be opting against continual monitoring, just because it gives me, again, that room to move, that freedom of activity. Okay, so the next one is, if birth takes a different pathway from the norm, what wishes would you have in these situations? And I just said, it's kind of a hard question to answer because you never know what's going to happen. I just said, discuss pros and cons of options with partner and midwives. There's an analogy, I think it's called the brain analogy, and I'll put it up on the screen. And it basically, you should kind of go through each of those things when you have to make a decision about birth. Like I said, these are preferences. If it gets to the point where I need to be transferred, if it gets to the point where it's not going well, we need to have a cesarean, like, obviously my priority is me being safe, baby being safe, and everyone being healthy and safe. So yeah, like I said, talk about the pros and cons, discuss it with Fraser, he can advocate for me, and there's not really much. If that happens, it happens, then that's kind of, you just have to go with the flow a little bit. The next one is meeting your baby. Would you like skin to skin? Yes, absolutely, if that's possible. Skin to skin straight off the bat is really, really important for that kind of first bonding. So definitely skin to skin. Announcing the sex, not relevant for us. We already know we're having a little girl, or we think we're having a little girl. We've checked twice. So yes. Cord cutting by Dad. Yes, Fraser was a little bit like, ooh. But yeah, Fraser will cut the cord. Delayed cord clamping, yes. It's kind of, I don't know if it's new or not. I think it's a fairly new thing. You used to have to kind of request it. I think it's now getting to the point where it's a bit more, that is the norm, is delayed cord clamping. It basically means that your cord and your placenta are still active even after baby's born. So even once baby's out and breathing and crying and fussing and skin to skin, the cord is still pulsing and they're still getting a lot of stuff from your placenta. Now usually, or I don't know, usually they would just cut the cord immediately as soon as baby's out and that's it, kind of thing, job's done. But it's getting to the point now where people are thinking, actually there's still quite a lot that is being got from that placenta. So wait until the cord stops pulsing, as in wait until the blood stops flowing, and then clamp the cord and cut the cord. So yes, we will be doing delayed cord clamping. Okay, the next one is the third stage. Do you want it physiologically or do you want it as an injection? Now, if you're not pregnant or if you haven't researched it, then that probably means absolutely nothing. And we had to kind of do a lot of research about the third stage and what it is. Third stage is the delivery of your placenta. So obviously you have your baby, it's all lovely, baby's on your chest, you're having your first cuddle, you're amazed, you've just given birth, but you've still got the placenta inside you, it still needs to come out, you still need to give birth to it, and it's one more contraction, or I think they usually say it's about one more contraction. It's got no bones, it's nothing like as painful as having the baby, it just comes out. So basically what it means is by physiologically or injection, you can wait for your placenta to deliver naturally. So it detaches from your uterus lining and it just comes out naturally. I think, I might be wrong, but I think from my research it can take up to about half an hour, which means you've still got the placenta and obviously the cord inside you for about half an hour, I think. It can also increase risk of hemorrhage if you have a natural placenta delivery, just because your uterus doesn't kind of clamp down straight away, so it can mean more risk of hemorrhaging, or like blood loss. Injection is basically, I think when baby's head is delivered, you probably wouldn't even notice it, they stick a quick injection in your thigh, I believe, and that acts as a kind of, it speeds up that process, so it clamps your uterus for you, it kind of restricts it for you, and it forces the placenta to deliver, and it can be a lot quicker, so it can come kind of 10 minutes after delivery rather than 30 minutes. We have gone with injection rather than natural, just for the kind of the speediness of it, then it's done and then we can focus on baby, and also that risk of hemorrhaging. I don't think I'm particularly at risk of hemorrhaging, but I have been on iron tablets, I had fairly low iron my pregnancy, and that can just be another risk, so I think they would recommend having an injection, and I'm happy to do that. I would have the injection. The next question is, if you wish your baby to have vitamin K, do you want it by injection or oral dose? Now, vitamin K is something that they give to babies pretty much as standard when they're born. Basically, I think it's to do with babies can have a lack of ability to clot, and it means that if they don't have vitamin K, or if they have a deficiency, which some babies can, they can be bleeding, and I don't mean like bleeding from the skin, but like internal bleeding, like in the brain and stuff, especially if you have a ventouse or a forceps delivery where it kind of squashes the head a little bit. It can cause bleeding on the brain. So vitamin K, I believe, just helps that kind of clotting process and helps them manage that better. We're gonna have it. We'll have the vitamin K. We're gonna have it by injection, just because then it's done. If you have an oral dose, you have to have it at like straight away, and then you have another dose at 2 weeks, and then another dose at 4 weeks, and it's just kind of more dragged out. So we're just gonna have the injection, and then it's done. Chosen method of feeding baby, we're gonna breastfeed. I will pump along the line, but yeah, from day one we will be breastfeeding. Length of stay, as short as possible. I'm not gonna hang around. If we go in, of course, I'm not gonna hang around for days and days. I will, if it's a completely normal delivery, then we will be out of there after a couple of hours as soon as possible. We'll be home, we'll be having cuddles. Now that's it for this birth wishes list. There's a couple of other things that we will add that I got from the hypnobirthing birth wish list, that aren't actually specifically mentioned on here, so we've kind of written them down as an extra. The first thing is vernix. So if you ever see a photo of a brand newborn baby, they are not pink and cute. They are covered, or they can be covered in like this kind of white substance all over their body, or kind of grey substance. It's called vernix. It's just what keeps them ticking over in the uterus when they're inside you. They used to just wipe it off and give them a bath straight away, but actually there's a lot of research that shows that the vernix is really good for their skin. So we've just said let the vernix be absorbed, it will go, you know. The other one is about vaginal examinations. So that is where they, when they do a VE, they're seeing how many centimetres you are dilated. Some people really want to know. They're like, you know, check me. Am I 5? Am I 5.5? Am I 6? You know. However, especially after your waters break, then that can increase risk of infection. And then obviously if your baby gets an infection, then you're kind of on a time limit. You need to get them out, get them on antibiotics, and it can be just a bit of a pickle. So we've put vaginal examinations if there is a concern, especially after the waters are broken, or if the waters break, because, yeah, like I said, it can cause infection. And also, like, it can be quite demotivating. I can imagine, like, you're kind of there for hours and hours and hours, and you get another VE and you're only dilated another centimetre kind of thing. And I feel like that can be quite demotivating. I think I'd rather just stay within myself, you know, follow my body's process, and go from there. So I believe that is everything. Let me just check. Yeah, that is everything. So I hope I explained everything well. Like I said, there's all this jargon and all these words that from first glance that Fraser and I were looking at it and we were like, I don't even know what any of this means. I don't know how we're going to make any decisions about third stage or vitamin K or yada yada yada. There's so many things you have to consider and that kind of no one really explains to you necessarily. You know, it is based on doing your own research and stuff. So I hope if you are writing a birth plan, or if, you know, this has helped, and this is kind of, and me explaining my decisions has kind of helped you. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you or was slightly informative for you, and yeah, please let me know your thoughts. If you've written your birth plan, if you've had a home birth, let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts, and again, reach out to me on Instagram. My Instagram's always linked below. Feel free to message me. I've had loads of people reach out, which is really kind. And I'm also going to do the typical thing and say make sure you subscribe, because I know that like literally 90% of the people that watch my videos aren't subscribed, and it would be a dream just to hit 100 subscribers. That would be great. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!